Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to another video. Now before we get into the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this video, I'd like to start off with a question for you. What comes to mind when I say the term pre-NES? Or what came before the Nintendo Entertainment System? You may be assuming the Atari 2600, and yes, you've assumed correctly. However, there was so much more back then before the video game crash of 1983. There was the Mattel Intellivision, various Pong units, and the Colecovision. The Colecovision's model was to bring the arcade experience home. Now, some of you may say it did or didn't, but today we're going to learn all about the Colecovision and whether it really did bring that arcade experience home. So, let's take a look. Before we get to ColecoVision, let's take a brief look at the history of Coleco. In 1932, Colorado Leather Company was founded by Maurice Greenberg. Originally, they processed shoe leather and eventually made their way to leather craft kits. In the 1960s, they sold off the leather part of their business and started manufacturing plastic molding for swimming pools. Years after that, they entered the video game business in 1976 with the Coleco Telestar. This was mainly because of Atari's success with Pong. Everybody wanted a slice of the pie. Coleco continued their venture in the electronics business with the head-to-head series of two-player sports games and mini arcades such as Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man. Coleco enjoyed quite a bit of success with all of these ventures into the video game industry, and eventually they will release their own video game machine in 1982, the ColecoVision.
You are the player, and the arcade is the arena. You focus your mind and propel yourself into a universe where you're the master of your destiny for as long as you can keep the trip going. This is the arcade experience. We're ColecoVision. We bring the arcade experience home with games like Donkey Kong with multiple screens, arcade controls, and arcade graphics that let you have the arcade experience at home because your vision is our vision. ColecoVision.
Enter the ColecoVision, the most advanced arcade gaming system you could take home at the time. Released in August of 1982 for $175, it was superior to the Atari 2600 and the Mattel Intellivision, so at the time it blew the competition away. They even managed to partner with Nintendo to release the arcade hit Donkey Kong as the pack-in game. Because of the popularity of arcades at the time, releasing Donkey Kong as the pack-in game was the best thing Coleco could have done at the time. And it's pretty accurate to the arcade version as well. Donkey Kong ended up being the highest selling game for the ColecoVision, having sold roughly 2 million copies, and still remains one of the most popular games of the system. The console itself consists of a 14 by 8 by 2 inch plastic case that houses the motherboard, with a cartridge slot on top and the connectors for the power supply and the RF jack on the back. The design of the controllers are quite interesting by today's standards. They look more like a telephone than a controller, but the ColecoVision's controller consisted of a numeric keypad and a set of side buttons. To control the action on the screen, you had a 1.5-inch joystick. The keypad part of the controller is designed to be used with thin plastic overlays that map the keys to a particular game. And the best part is, the ColecoVision came with 2 controllers, so you and a friend could play as soon as you brought it home. I'd also like to take an opportunity to mention how huge this power supply is. It's literally bigger than my hand. Probably the biggest power supply I've ever seen. The sad thing is, I'm sure there's actually bigger out there. And yes, that's what she said. This bad boy had 1 kilobyte of ROM, a resolution of 256 by 192, could process up to 32 sprites on screen at once, and displayed a whopping total of 16 colors. One of the coolest things was the ability to use different pieces of hardware with the ColecoVision via the expansion module input on the front of the unit. There were 3 expansion modules. Expansion Module 1 allowed you to play Atari 2600 games. The second was a driving controller that was complete with a steering wheel and a gas pedal that came packaged with a port of turbo. And the third was a fully fledged computer known as the Atom. If you've ever wondered why some of the cartridges say Coleco and Atom, this was because you could use it on these particular units. Why was it called the Atom? Well, if you remember in the Bible, Adam took a bite of the forbidden apple. Apple was a tough competitor at the time in terms of computer, so Adam was yet again trying to take a bite out of the apple. There were also different controllers that were released, such as the roller controller that was a trackball. Whoa, look at that guy, I bet he made his girlfriend happy. And the Super Action controller set, which came packaged with Super Action Baseball. Each joystick had 4 action buttons, a numeric keypad, and a speed roller. As you can see, the Colecovision really did manage to bring the arcade experience home. Now, unfortunately, as I said, it succumbed to the video game crash of 1983, and eventually was discontinued in the year of 1985, shortly before the Nintendo Entertainment System would breathe life back into the video game industry. Now, what's something I'm missing from this video? Can you guys think of anything I'm missing? What's something I haven't covered yet? Oh yes, the games. Let's take a closer look at those games.
Mom, you should buy Billy Colecovision. Then he could play Burger Time. Besides, he ate his Brussels sprouts. Colecovision plays Congo Bongo, and Billy did clean his room.
This wouldn't have something to do with a free Cabbage Patch Kid.
Cabbage Patch?
Buy a ColecoVision and a Coleco game cartridge by December 31st. We'll send you a Cabbage Patch Kid free.
Wow, Colecovision, way to go, Amy. I did it just for you.
When you buy ColecoVision, you make 2 kids happy.
In total, 145 games were released for the ColecoVision. Most of these games were ports from popular arcade units at the time. This is one of the reasons that the ColecoVision was so successful. These cartridges had either 8, 16, 24, or a filled to the brim 32 kilobyte storage capacity. So, let's take a closer look at a few games. Brain Strainer is basically a memorization game where you have to follow the given patterns in either 2 modes, Follow the Leader or Clef Climber. It's a pretty straightforward game, and for Clef Climber, if you've got an ear for music, when you climb up the clefs to match the notes, getting rid of dissonance is oh so satisfying. Super Action Baseball is probably the most graphically impressive to me, featuring fully characterized players when either pitching or batting. The gameplay itself is pretty fun when you know how to play, so basically it's baseball. Carnival by Sega is a take on one of those games that you would play at a carnival. Basically the point of the game is trying to hit the given targets before you run out of bullets. You can also hit letters and numbers to get bonus points. Yay, bonus points. If you watched my Vectrex review, you'll notice similarities between this game, Cosmic Avenger, and Scramble. It's basically a side-scrolling shooter, and your goal is to blow up all bad things with either your bombs or your gun. It's pretty cool, and the stages get progressively faster as you continue on. One of the many classic arcade ports to be brought to the ColecoVision was Donkey Kong Jr. I've never really played much of this game until now, and to be honest, it's actually really fun. You play as Donkey Kong Jr., as the title suggests, and you are trying to climb your surroundings to get keys to free DK from Mario. Quite interesting seeing Mario play the role of the bad guy here, isn't it? Well, here you have it, Donkey Kong. My favorite game on the system, and probably the most favored by many people. This replicates the arcade version perfectly, minus the fact that it excluded the Pie Factory stage from the arcade game. Some people say that this is the best port of Donkey Kong ever. Do you agree? We all know Pac-Man was huge in this time frame, so it's only natural that ColecoVision had Ladybug, a Pac-Man clone. You play as a ladybug collecting little dots, avoiding the enemies that chase you. The interesting thing that makes it different is that there are little trap doors that only you can pass through. It adds a little more strategy to the game, which I like. And as you can see here, things got a little fuzzy towards the end of the gameplay. Oh well, that's old analog video for you. Looper is an airplane game that I am terrible at. Your goal is to make loops and shoot balloons. That's it. There's not really much to it, but it's really fun. Stealing fanfare for the common man straight out of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's playbook in the intro of the game is Space Fury. This is your basic space shooting game. Avoid the enemies, clear the screen, and get points. Simple, but effective. Venture is a simple dungeon crawling type game where you explore all the areas as a smiley face armed with a bow and arrow on your quest for treasure. This particular game has one of my favorite uses of sound effects on the Colecovision. I really love all those old sine and square waves, and you should too. Zaxxon by Sega is an isometric shooting game. I'm not a huge fan of this game because it's just so hard to see where you're going. As you can see here, I died twice because it's not really easy to gauge where you are in the level. If you can look past that, though, it is one of the better looking games on the Colecovision. Watch out for those enemy ships, they'll send plenty of missiles your way.
Now playing on Colecovision, Mr. Do and Time Pilot, two of the best new arcade games for the best system made. This is Time Pilot, a battle with aircraft from the past and the future.
Homing missile! Got him! Uh-oh, blue bomber!
And this is Mr. Do. Mow a path to his fruit and start picking, but don't get picked off.
Powerball!
Nice shot. Mr. Do and Time Pilot, now playing on Colecovision. The best system in town keeps getting better.
Well, it's been many years since the Colecovision has been retired, unfortunately. However, it has seen a recent resurgence in popularity, no thanks to the retro gaming community here on YouTube and various places on the web such as Atari Age. Now, there has been some recent homebrew games such as Gamester81, one of my good friends. He produced a game called Gamester81 The Game. Unfortunately, I haven't had my chance to get my hands on it. However, it does feature 3 classic arcade levels all packed into one Colecovision cartridge. This was made in conjunction with CollectorVision, who, among others, makes great homebrew games for old systems. I also want to point you in the direction of the ColecoVision's podcast, a really great podcast which is also very informative that recounts stories of the era, video games, and even the other product known as the Cabbage Patch Kids. This is also hosted by Gamester81, SoCal Mike, and Willie. I honestly really recommend you guys check that out. So I hope you learned something interesting today. Whether you are closing out this video as we speak to go out and buy a Colecovision from your local retro shop, or you just simply have a newfound respect for a console that is long gone by. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be sure to see you on the next review. Thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to like and subscribe so you can stay updated with all of my content as it gets released. And if you want to check out more things retro, head on over to retrodustbin.com, a great community-based site that is awesome for reminiscing, video game reviews, game hunting, retro game store reviews, and more.